Hi, the Green Report here with 7 environmental news stories you may have missed in March 2021. Let's dive in. Number 1. California warns of critically dry year. March started off with a warning out of California and the threat of a devastating wildfire season looming later in the year. Lack of rain is a major issue as these effects are being felt across the state. During the city's wettest months of December, January, and February, Los Angeles received just 2.44 inches of the expected 3.12 inches of rain, the Los Angeles Times reported. At the same time, Northern California remains in one of the worst two-year rain deficits since the gold rush of 1849, its precipitation at only 30% to 70% of a normal year, according to experts. California relies on a few winter storms to fill up the reservoirs, but due to climate change, winter storms are becoming more unpredictable and few and far between, as California is still recovering from the 2012 to 2016 drought that caused $2.7 billion in losses for the agricultural industry and more than 18,000 jobs. This drought has also killed about 102 million forest trees. Number 2. California's wildfires more toxic than pollution study finds. Even more news out of California, and it has to do with wildfire air pollution. The study states that, quote, the thick gray wildfire smoke that shrouds California each autumn and winter could be more harmful to humans than pollution from cars and other sources, a new study has found. Coming at the heels of the state's worst wildfire season on record, the findings add to growing evidence that extreme fires fueled by climate change will have increasingly dire health consequences for the residents in the western United States. Continuing, quote, tiny toxic particles emitted by wind-whipped wildfires resulted in 10 times as many hospitalizations due to respiratory illnesses as compared to other types of pollution, researchers found in the study, which was published in Nature Communications. The study states that wildfires in the West have only gotten more ferocious and destructive, spewing up even more toxic smoke. 6 of the largest wildfires on record burned in 2020, and while particulate pollution across the United States has been generally declining in recent years due to stricter environmental regulations, pollution in the Northwest increased due to wildfires, with examples from last year with smoke-filled skies all along the West Coast reaching north into the states of Oregon and Washington. Number 3. Heavy rain in Hawaii prompts emergency evacuations. On March 9th, the governor of Hawaii declared a state of emergency due to heavy rain, which collapsed bridges, destroyed homes, and forced evacuations. Floodwater damaged or destroyed at least 6 homes, and the Maui Fire Department received more than a dozen rescue calls from residents trapped in their homes. About 1,300 Maui customers also lost power, according to reports. According to the State of Hawaii's climate change portal, quote, the climate crisis is making the Hawaiian Islands drier overall. Quote, when we do get rain, we get it all at once, the state wrote, and that means more landslides, runoff, algae blooms, erosion, and flooding. Number 4. Michael Reagan now heads the EPA. On Wednesday, March 10th, the Senate confirmed Michael Reagan, 66 to 34, to head the Environmental Protection Agency. It should be noted he is the first black male to head the EPA in the agency's history. Quote, Reagan is one of several nominees that the Biden administration announced in December as part of a team to tackle the climate crisis. But at the EPA, Reagan also faces the added challenge of rebuilding an agency still reeling from former President Donald Trump's rollbacks, as well as addressing the inequality that exposes poor and minority communities to more pollution than wealthy white communities. He says, quote, environmental justice is something that is near and dear to my heart. Continuing, quote, the 44-year-old Reagan comes to the EPA with a long background in environmental regulation and advocacy. He worked for the EPA under both President Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. From 2001 to 2008, he worked at the Office of Air Quality Planning and Standards. From 2008 to 2015, he worked for the Environmental Defense Fund, then left to start his own environmental consulting firm. Number 5. Deb Holland confirmed as Interior Secretary. On March 15th, Deb Holland was confirmed as Interior Secretary, quote, making the New Mexico Democrat and Green New Deal supporter the first Native American cabinet secretary in United States history. Quote, she was confirmed by a 51 to 40 vote in which only a handful of Republicans joined with all the members of the Democratic caucus who were present. 9 lawmakers, including 3 Democrats, did not vote. I look forward to collaborating with all of you, Holland said in a tweet directed at senators. She says, I am ready to serve. The confirmation of Deb Holland as Secretary of the Interior is a tremendous win for indigenous communities, the waters, parks, and lands across the country, and the climate. Holland will usher in a new era of climate leadership in the Department of the Interior, reversing the tide of the last 4 years of dirty energy policies enacted by the Trump administration. Number 6. Australian floods. Australia was hit hard by a massive amount of rainfall in the country's most populous state of New South Wales, forcing more than 20,000 people to flee their homes. The rain began on a Thursday, but the inundation increased over the weekend. Some areas have seen rainfall 5 times the monthly average for March in just 4 days, with 3 feet of rain in just 5 days. There have been massive damage as photos show homes, roads, and trees completely underwater. The flooding comes a year after the region was scorched by record-breaking bushfires. Number 7. Deadly tornadoes hit Alabama and Georgia. Toward the end of March, a series of deadly tornadoes hit the southern region of the United States, as 8 tornadoes may have touched down in the state of Alabama. Birmingham National Weather Service meteorologist John DeBlock told journalists one of them traveled around 100 miles across the state. Quote, Alabama Emergency Management Agency Director Brian Hastings estimated that the number of homes damaged or destroyed across the state was in the hundreds. DeBlock said the Alabama tornadoes were part of a supercell that later moved on to Georgia. At the height of the storms, around 30,000 people were without power. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the Green Report for more monthly recap videos on the environment and the climate crisis.